Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of How Stories Work. Today, I want to talk about the difference between structure and storytelling and give you an idea of how flexible working with something like subtext can be. If you look at any of the premises here in subtext, if we go ahead and just grab the one for Titanic, since everybody has seen Titanic, and you go down here, there's a lot of thematic conflicts, a lot of thematic issues that you would deal with in a complete story. And if you look at the story form, you'll see that there are all these words here: proven, presumption, deviation, accurate. And some of these words might not be familiar to you. The thing you want to understand is that these words represent the core structure, the thematic structure of the narrative, but that the way that you illustrate each of these words is the storytelling. So you have structure on the bottom and storytelling on the top. It looks a little something like this. So here you can see the storytelling is what rests on the surface and what you actually present to your audience. But all that scary stuff, all those terms that you see in the story form for your story, that's the subtext underneath. That's the thematic conflict that is driving the story. And that's why you can get something like Collateral with Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx. And you can see that the premise for Collateral, you can escape something when you get out of your way and abandon avoiding being killed. So in that one, it combines the objective story goal of obtaining, you can escape when you abandon avoiding, so running away from your problems. And that's why you see that here at the top. You can escape something when you get out of your way and abandon avoiding being killed. So you can escape something is the obtaining, and the avoiding being killed is this story's particular flavor of avoid. Whereas if I went into Finding Nemo, we find the same exact story, just with different storytelling. You can secure your family when you get out of your way and abandon preventing someone from getting hurt. And if we scroll down here to the bottom, we see the same goal, the goal of obtaining, and we see the same central problem, avoid. Both Finding Nemo and Collateral actually have the same exact story structure. They just have different storytelling on top. You can secure your family. Well, securing your family is Finding Nemo's illustration of the story goal, and abandon preventing someone from getting hurt. That's Finding Nemo's version of avoid. That's why you can have thousands and thousands of different narrative structures, but then millions upon billions of different stories because their illustrations are different. Most people are familiar with the fact that Romeo, Juliet, and West Side Story are the same exact story, just told with different storytelling. Point of fact, they have one key narrative dynamic that is different, which has to do with the way space and time is organized in each story, which I'll get into in a different video. But it's that same idea where the structure of all the different narrative potentials that are going on is the same thing, but then the illustration on top is different. Let me show you how we do that in subtext. If I go into Collateral's story form here, you'll see it's the same thing that you saw on the public page, where you have the central character element of avoid, which is driving the story, and then the story goal of obtaining. If I come into the narrative here and we look at the premise, you can escape something when you get out of your way and abandon avoiding being killed. This again is obtaining, which you'll see here, objective premise of obtaining. And then if I come over here, subjective premise of avoid. If I wanted to take the same exact story structure of Collateral, let's say I really understood it and I love the message that it was getting across. Hey, you can achieve whatever you want once you stop running away. I could come in here and I would come up with a different illustration of what obtaining is in this story. So defeating the murderous crime boss, establishing dominance over a neighbor. And then you can just scroll through these and get an idea of what kind of story you might want to write, even if you don't have an idea of it. So maybe bring down a corrupt system. All right, now the message of this is you can bring down a corrupt system when you get out of your way and abandon. Let's try something different here. Here, hiding one's true self. You can see how you can change the storytelling on top of the story structure, but still maintain the integrity of the structure underneath. So all of this stays the same, and subtext makes sure that you can be as creative as you possibly want to, but that it'll take care of the actual structure and make sure you don't go too far away. Another great feature in subtext is if you don't find something that you're looking for here, you can always type in your own. So perhaps I want to talk about buying a country. So you can buy a country when you get out of your way and abandon running away from something. You can see here, there's no results for buy a country, but you can have us look at it. You'll submit it for review. And what happens is we hear narrative first, get an email saying, hey, there's a new illustration of obtaining. Should we approve it? And if we decide that it is close enough to what obtaining means, but presents a different way of looking at it enough that other people could benefit from it, then we'll go ahead and approve it. And this will change from a gold temporary illustration into one that's permanent. And then, of course, this doesn't make any sense. You can buy a country when you get out of your way and abandon hiding one's true self. So maybe steering clear of conflict. So this would be a thing where perhaps there's dictators and let's see, you can gain a country for your people. All right. So now I've changed it, submitted it. You can gain a country for your people when you get out of your way and abandon steering clear of conflict. We have the same exact story structure as collateral, and Subtxt will make sure that it maintains that integrity and it has the same dramatic argument that it's trying to get across, but it's allowed the writer to move one step away from structure and more into their imagination, which then gets closer to their heart, which is the great thing about Subtxt. It balances this really complex and sophisticated story structure with more creativity here. And then, of course, you can always go into the actual problem element itself. I can go into a void here. And if I scroll down, these are all examples of characters who are motivated by a void, so you can get an idea of what that element means. And then here are all the illustrations that have been approved. We can go ahead and cycle through these. This is what I do when I find a word that I'm not quite sure how I'm going to illustrate it. I just kind of cycle through these and find one that speaks to me and that actually gives me an idea of, oh, that would be a great idea for a story. And that way you can balance your creativity in your imagination by making sure that it sticks to the dramatic argument or the intent of the story that you're trying to get across to your audience. So that's it for how stories work. If you have any questions about this, please let me know. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow.